Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome back to your favorite football morning show, Unc and Few. We got Unc this time coming in, popping in. He's on a healthy wave. He's on a
Mm.
good wave. And you got your nephew, Big Stepper here. How do you feel, my man? We're getting in December. What? We're in the depth of December football, man. How y'all feel? How you feel, bro?
Man, I'm feeling great. Christmas is on its way and all that type of good stuff, and the NFL is heating up. This is what we were talking about earlier on in the year when we said
Yes.
December is different from November, which is different from October, which is all very different from September football. So we're starting to get some
Mm.
of the weather games, although they haven't been intense yet. Winter has been fairly mild up here in the Northeast and whatnot, central part of
Mm.
the country. So we haven't really had some. I've been checking the weather in games like Cleveland and whatnot, where I've got like a kicker, for example, and every weekend I'm ready to pull the trigger on
Yeah.
dropping a guy for a dome guy, but the weather keeps rocking in Cleveland, so why worry about it? So
Mm.
but the fun thing that's starting to happen too in the NFL
Talk
is
to
that
me.
rookies that we were waiting for in fantasy to suddenly start producing, that we were all confident we're going to be like, really, really productive and have not been, are starting to. Um, we're starting.
Yeah.
We're starting to see veterans like Joe Mixon, like he does every single year in December, starts
Yes,
running like
sir.
a complete bell cow, right? Gouging defenses. And it's like, you suffer all season long with these guys just so you can get into November and December when they start to rock. Because, yeah, trust me,
Yeah.
if Joe Mixon keeps playing the way he's playing and getting spelled by the emerging Chase Brown, by the way,
Oh
um,
yes. Oh
he's
yes.
gonna he's gonna win somebody a league if Mixon keeps producing the way he's producing.
Man, I have him in my other league and he's paying dividends, man. I'm like, bruh. And that's gonna be a segment we're gonna talk about later in this episode, man. Our trick or treat fantasy players, man. Cause
Yeah.
we getting a lot of treats. Joe Mixon owners, we're getting a lot of treats. He's been nice, not naughty this year. You feel me?
Yeah, man. Well, just for
Yes,
fun,
sir.
this week, I did a
Mm,
rundown on how like what my team looks like versus what I drafted, and
nice. Let me know.
yeah, there are some significant differences, right? My core players have worked out for
Hmm.
the most part. There's been a big question with Ridley lately. Remember, I drafted Ridley and I drafted Trevor,
Yeah.
thinking that it would be a double stack combination. The two of them would be productive all year, and it has not worked out that way. But they're still on my
No.
team. They're still on my team. Lawrence defied expectations, but I still don't think his foot is right. That foot that he has a high ankle sprain on that he has managed to play through. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the foot he plants on, right? And we saw a
And
lot last.
he
Yeah, yeah,
I
we
mean,
saw.
they need him. They need him to be able to be a bit mobile. They can't have him be
Yeah,
stationary all the time. They need him to move. You know what I mean?
well, Lawrence has this Iron Man thing going on, right? Get a load
No,
of
I didn't know that.
get a load of this.
Talk
He
to me.
has not
Mm.
missed a game in high school, college, or the pros. The
Whoa.
dude is an Iron Man, but I think it was affecting his accuracy last week. He put up 13 balls for Ridley last week, and he only caught five. And it's the accuracy. It's not. It wasn't Ridley, right? Ridley
And you
doesn't.
know what? Yeah, no, Ridley's a good player. So me, I'm kind of surprised by that. But something I am even more surprised by is Cam Newton talking about. I'm going to talk about the controversy, and I need your thoughts because I made a video about this earlier. Cam Newton talking about game managers versus game changers. And right now, if we look at MVP ladder, according to, by the way, everybody who's in there, slap a like, man. I need to see the likes come up, man. I need to see the likes come up. If you're watching on the replay, man, slap the like, man. We do this, show us some love. Get in the comments. Oh, Unc is talking crazy. Big Stepper JS talking crazy. Let us know. Or if you like our takes, which have been great takes this year. Show us some love, man. Give us
Yeah,
some Christmas here. You feel me? But we got to talk about this, right? Dak being a game manager versus a game changer. Brock Purdy. A lot of players that Cam Newton called game managers, and this has been the Ooh, this has been the controversy of the week. What do you think, Unc? Is Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, are they game managers or game changers? What are your thoughts?
What do I think? What are my thoughts? My thoughts are those guys should shut the fuck up. I
Okay.
understand. I understand it's been a bit of a down year as far as
Yeah.
quarterbacking is concerned and whatnot. But I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
Cam Newton and Ben both need to like just shut their pie holes because like they're just talking out their
Mhm.
ass, right? Because I mean, their numbers,
Mm.
Purdy's numbers and whatnot, like okay, let's start from the top here. What is the definition of a game manager? We all sort of know it's a bit
Yeah,
of a
there we go.
pejorative, but what do they really mean by that, right? The closest thing
Mhm.
I can get to a definition was a backhanded compliment for a gun shy, less skilled QB who operates best behind the scenes, allowing their playmakers and defense to get the win. Are you
Okay.
kidding
Okay.
me? Are you kidding me? That's supposed to be Dak Prescott. That's supposed to be Brock,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Both guys have 70% completion rates, right? Which is, that's
Yes, they
very
do.
good. That's very good.
Yeah.
Lead the league, right? So okay, there you go.
Mhm.
Gee, well, they're super accurate, so they must be just a manager. Like, where I mean,
Mm.
what is the idea here, right? What that everybody's got to be Brett Favre in his first 3 seasons and go 25 for 40
Mhm.
every game, but like 12 of those passes were really like deep and spectacular, right? But like come on, man. No, like accuracy is not a bad thing for one. Number two,
Yeah.
Dak's got like I'm close to like 3,600 yards or something like that. Purdy's got like 3,500. I mean, these are high numbers. They're getting like Purdy, for example, is getting 270 yards a game on average,
It's really
right?
good. That's
So
really
that's
good. Yeah.
that's volume and productivity, right? They both like if they don't lead the league, they're very in the top five in producing touchdowns. Like these are throwing touchdowns and running touchdowns, not like handing it off to somebody else. So I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, there's all kinds of factors in their favor. Especially with Purdy too. Purdy has an exceptional stat. The guy gets 10 yards a play, whatever the play is.
Yes.
Yeah, like
Yes.
yeah. So the guy like he really gets you downfield, and so yeah, I do not really appreciate these guys from the previous generation all coming in to talk like their smack about how the younger guys are screwing it all up. Give me a
Mhm.
break, man. Those guys all took their turn at being like the new guys out there where people were talking trash to them and stuff, and they didn't appreciate it, especially Cam Newton. Cam Newton put up with a lot of abuse, most of which he
Oh,
didn't
yeah, yeah, yeah.
didn't deserve. So
I agree.
I think he might be a little more sensitive to that to start picking on these guys and calling them game managers. Well, number one, let's dispel the myth that being a game manager is a bad thing. But what it
That's
implies is
not a
that,
bad
that
thing.
you're not willing to go downfield. Well, guess what? Guess who's got the longest completion downfield in the league this year?
I think it's
Brock,
Brock Purdy.
Brock
Yeah,
Purdy. It's like
yeah,
75 yards.
yeah.
So Cam Newton could fuck off with all that.
Oh, Unc came with some fire today. Holy shit. I'm gonna say this. Here's my opinion. I said it in the video before. I'm not mad at Cam for having that opinion because if we look at the quarterback play this year, it's not been to the level of what we're used to. Now,
Agreed.
that's why me and Unc have always said guys like Tyreek Hill, guys like TJ Watt, guys like Miles Garrett, guys in the league deserve to get the MVP awards if they're not quarterbacks because this year overall has been a down year for quarterback play and we've all talked about this
Mm-hmm.
endlessly. And now that what's happened is Cam is confused that with calling these guys game managers. Okay, you can make a rational argument that most of the league is game managers. You can make an argument that
Sort of your job as a quarterback to manage the game.
manage the game. That's your job. That's part of don't get turnovers, win games. You don't have to throw for 300 yards and five touchdowns in order to win games. You don't have to. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
Cam has conflated the two, and you know what I mean. Yes, yes. When you have a tool like Tyreek Hill on your team, you're gonna do really well. When you have a guy like Debo Samuel's on your team, you're gonna do really well.
Well,
These things matter, but it's not Brock Purdy's fault. He has amazing weapons. It's not, you know what I'm saying, Tua's
Yeah,
fault he has an amazing weapon. It's not, and you know what? Personally, I think Dak is playing some of the best football he's ever played in his career. I
that's
think
right.
that Cam has just was feeling a little salty, wanted a hot take, wanted
If
to
you
get clicks on his podcast, and it worked. I think it worked. So
and
me, I'm not mad at
on,
it. And also,
yeah,
he's a former MVP, so he has the right to have his opinion. It's just kind of
yeah,
wild. You know what I mean?
I guess that's the environment we're in right now. But
Yeah, that's what we have.
you know,
Yeah,
let me give you the long wave of history's perspective on this.
talk to me. Yeah.
Basically, ever since the advent of putting the speaker in the helmet, right?
Mm,
So that the quarterback is in constant contact with both the booth and the sideline, right?
yes.
The offensive coordinator is calling every play. Your game manager
Yeah.
is the offensive coordinator. In the past, they used to do it with hand signals and whatnot, but there was a
Mhm.
time when a quarterback literally was the offensive coordinator on the field. He was calling his own plays.
Oh.
And that trend
Mm,
lasted into about the mid 70s, where a quarterback was in the 60s and up to about the mid 70s, where a quarterback would take over sometimes and just start calling all the plays, on one of those long, grinding 92-yard drives, game winning
mm,
kind of thing. The quarterback is the guy calling the plays, right? And every
mm.
now and again, we celebrate somebody who audibles and does something at the line, sees,
Peyton Manning, Omaha, Omaha.
right, right, who is, by the way,
Yeah.
considered to be the greatest game manager, unquote, in the NFL. So
One of
yeah,
the greatest quarterbacks was basically a game manager, Peyton
so
Manning.
yeah,
That's
so
it. Mm,
basically, all quarterbacks are game managers now. They're just like a
mhm.
tool of the offensive coordinator who's calling in the plays. He's in direct conversation with the quarterback. He can make changes at the freaking line if he wants, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
they're all game managers in that respect. So just let it lie down right there. Yeah, we all know Cam's looking for a hot take, and he got it. It's actually,
You know
see,
what? Yeah,
it's just the
you're
tough
right.
system we're in.
Yeah, it's an era where, and you know what? This is why I like our show. We don't give insane, we give rational takes and we make jokes and we have fun with it. We're not gonna give you an insane take to get clicks, bro.
For,
You know
yeah,
what
for
I
the
mean?
purpose of being insane clicker. Yeah, yeah. Being
We're
insane
not
clicker.
gonna clickbait y'all. We're not gonna clickbait y'all. But what we're gonna talk about, something that is hot, is Brandon freaking Staley, who got not only the hot seat, but he got the hot stove and burnt himself out.
I was
Bitch.
gonna say he might have been
What do
hot.
you feel?
He might have been hot Wednesday afternoon or Thursday. He was cold. He was cold and by the side of the road by Friday.
Yeah. Oh, that's smart. That's a funny
Some
pun,
guys,
dog. Yeah.
some guys were speculating. Some guys were speculating apparently mid-game if the guy was going to be fired like by the end of halftime.
Yes,
And
Richard Sherman. He's like
yeah,
Sherman. Yeah. I saw
they
it on
said
the
if
on the broadcast.
They
Hmm.
they they wondered if the script were reversed, with an owner like the Raiders owner versus a class act like the Spanos, right? They were saying if it was flipped, good money that the Oakland coach would have been gone by halftime.
Man, imagine
So,
Al Davis was still alive. Al Davis would have had him fired in the
Billy
first
Martin, they were
quarter.
calling all those names. Yep, yep. Steinbrenner, they were calling all those type of names, saying like if this
Yeah.
was anybody else, he wouldn't be coming. So they were down 49
Mm-mm.
nothing.
Man, that was such an insane snap. Because for me, I'm like, oh, it's Thursday night football. You got Chargers, Raiders. It's probably gonna be a whatever game. I'll tune in after halftime, bruh. I see the score. My jaw is dropped. I'm like, is this the same team, the Raiders, who couldn't even put up, they couldn't even put up a single point the last week, and now they don't put up like 43 in halftime, the craziest score I've ever seen. Unc, how did you feel about that Brandon Staley firing? And why do you feel they like? How do you feel about it, man?
Well, I don't really follow the Chargers that much, except in sort of
Nobody does. They suck.
like I say, outside of the long wave of history, like I don't really care about the Chargers that much. To me, they're a perpetual AFC West team that's always going to be sort of exciting to watch, and usually, anyways. But they always have some clinkers too, right? They don't really have a
Yeah.
pedigree of victory outside of a few conference championships. So
Yeah.
anyways, yeah. So not really paying a whole bunch of attention to it. I know the coach through my conversations with you here, so I
Yeah.
sort of understood the situation. But hearing some of the analysts talk about it this week, there's a couple of different things that stand out. Number one, they could have had Sean Payton last year, and they were not aggressive.
Yes.
They were not aggressive in recruiting him.
Mhm.
And so this situation has sort of been ripe for an implosion like we've seen. The Spanos ownership did not really act aggressively in finding the best coach that they could have replacing Staley last year. And Staley, right up to
Mhm.
the last minute, came out saying like he believed his players believed in him, and it's like, nah, dude, nobody watching that game thinks their players are for you.
Anyone with eyes knew it was over as soon the players quit. Let's just be real. The players quit on their coach, and to be a defensive coach, right? And to let another team impose their will on you when you have players such as Khalil Mack, you have players like Kenneth Murray in the linebacker position, you have players like Derwin James. These are great players, great
Mhm.
football players that are game breakers, but you decided to be just a terrible coach. And then you look on the other end, you see, Sean Payton, even though he's screaming at his quarterback, has led a team that was an abject disaster that's now competing for a wild card spot. And
Yeah.
that's interesting to me. So me,
Well,
I just look at it and I look at coaching, I look at quarterback play, and obviously Justin Herbert wasn't there. So boom, boom, you're out. But I want to hear this about what you think, Unc.
well,
The Mahomes.
the
Go ahead, go
ironic,
ahead.
the ironic
Mm,
thing, Click's
mm.
numbers were no worse than anybody else in the league on any given Sunday. The guy threw for 260 yards, had 3 touchdowns, but he also had 3 picks. Right? those picks were those
True.
picks those picks were spectacular too. By the way,
Oh my God, yes. We talked about that interception on the line of scrimmage where the dude flew like it was in the Matrix. It was crazy. I'm
the
like,
guy
I look
guy
at it like
went.
what?
Well, we've talked about defensive players that move as quickly as
Yes,
the offensive players nowadays, right? And this guy, he must
yes.
have seen the play before develop. Like
Oh yes.
he knew what was going on. It's like he was in the huddle. That guy ran parallel to the line, chose his entry
Hmm.
spot, and just intercepted the pass. Like he timed
Facts.
it perfectly because he saw it, and then went 10 yards into the end zone. It's just like wow. And when
Yes.
they showed his his pattern on the screen, with the X's and O's, and it was just like
Yes.
that was
Oh
it.
wow.
It was the only 90-degree play I've ever seen drawn up for an interception. That was the most hilarious thing I'd seen, and it was typical for the night. Think about this. This was almost as bad as the 70-20 game that Denver went through.
Oh man, I think it's
16
worse.
21. I think it was
I
worse
think
too
it's
because
worse. It's
oh,
worse.
the Vegas clearly took their foot off the gas pedal in the fourth quarter.
Oh yeah, you know what's crazy? Vegas took it easy in the fourth quarter, and the Chargers were so bad they were giving them picks, giving them turnovers. At a certain point, I saw an offensive lineman pick up the football from the Raiders. Dude looked 350 pounds running in for he almost ran in for a
And nobody
touchdown.
caught him. I mean, now
Nobody caught it.
he had blocking, but nobody caught him. That's right.
Like,
Um,
a 350-pound man was almost gonna score on them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, he looked like he was going to need an oxygen tank if he had another 10 yards to go. But I mean, yeah, yeah. No, it was that kind of night, right? Like fumbles, strip sacks, just like that turned into touchdowns. It was just crazy. And there were no signs of life other than
Mhm.
click, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, certainly from the Chargers defense. I mean, if you're the Chargers defense by halftime, you're sitting there going like, fuck, why am I going to go out there? Risk injury, gonna get hurt. Like, I don't want,
Mhm.
it's no loss, right? I'm sure the
Bruh,
defense.
it's literally no mas, and you know what? When it rains, it pours, dog. Because they were in the Raiders home, and fans were going crazy. Everybody's going crazy.
I
The
mean,
the the,
that
the
thing.
poop kept on rolling, dog. It kept on rolling and rolling. And the Chargers defenders had no pride. I'm sorry. They quit on their coach. They
Yeah,
hated that coach. And to think that they could have had Sean Payton, who's even though the Broncos lost yesterday, I think I said something controversial last podcast. I think the Broncos are not only gonna make the playoffs. I think they might even pass the Chiefs. And
Well, we
you know
talked about
why?
that.
We did. We did. And that leads to my next topic. Mahomes going crazy on the refs after that the refs pulled it back. You know what I mean? And even even Andy Reid going off on the
He
refs.
was hot.
And what'd you say? Sorry?
He was hot.
He was hot, and it was they both got fined by the NFL for 130, 150,000 dollars, right, for talking smack about the refs. I think the Chiefs. It's gonna sound controversial. The Chiefs might not even make the playoffs because you have the Browns who look good, the Bengals who look good, you have the Colts who look good, which we're gonna get into that. We have a ton of wild card contending teams. Broncos had a very bad game yesterday. We all know that. But
Yeah.
Unc, what do you think of Mahomes going crazy. Last week. What do you think about
Well, the first thing I'll address is yes, we mentioned
it?
this about a month ago.
Yes,
I
we
think
did.
when Denver beat KC, and we said
Mhm.
that KC better not, like, we literally said they need to, watch their win count, and they've
Yes,
lost two in
sir.
a row, and Denver's gone 1 for 2 in the last two games, I think, and so
Yes, yes.
I think Denver is only one game behind KC, and
They're one
KC
game behind, yeah. Mhm.
and KC really looks like they are not going to put together an offense. And I think that's why he was so upset, right? Because it went to
Yes.
Kelsey and all that type of stuff. But his comments are extremely revealing. What his beef was? You know what his beef was? Is that
What was his beef?
they called that offside at that point in the game. He didn't even
Bingo.
deny for doing it. He says they were creeping the line all game long with no issues. So why on earth are they going to call it then, there, and now? Well, buddy, that's how it works when, they say if you're not cheating, you're not trying. But you know what happens is that inevitably you risk getting caught. And
Yeah.
they chose that moment to do it. Well, okay, you might gripe about that, but there used to be an AM radio, ESPN radio broadcaster named the Fabulous Sports Babe in the '90s. And whenever we'd
Oh,
get to, yeah, 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 and she wasn't a babe, but she just was like the sports babe, right? Like she was great, though. She was great.
that's
Anyway,
funny.
so whenever we
Yeah.
would have these conversations, she would always, not me personally, but with the radio audience, she would always end controversies like this, conversations of controversy, whatnot, by saying, "You know what? Score more points." That
Yes.
is the point for the Chiefs. You don't want these issues.
Preach.
Fucking bury the Bills by the third quarter, right? You didn't do that.
Yes.
Your
Yes.
offense is not functioning. You finally get it to work, and you get called for the cheating you've been doing all game long.
Yes, preach on it, Unc. I'm telling you right now, this is a non-issue if you put up 30 points. This is a
Mhm.
non-issue if you put up 40 points. And the problem really is that they don't put up that many points. The Chiefs are not averaging that many points. And if you're not going to put up points on the board, you're going to lose. Why are you in that situation in the first place? Because your offense has not been scoring points, because your receivers are not making catches, you're not getting touchdowns. If you look at the Chiefs' last few games, bro, they're struggling to put up 30, man. You know what I mean? The Packers beat them 27-19. They
Yeah,
got
they're
31 on the Raiders. But think about it like this. Before, the Chiefs would put up 30 balls every week.
yep.
Remember?
Chiefs,
Put
yeah,
up 30
sure.
balls every week.
Chief, Chiefs are averaging about 23 and three quarter points a game, 23.75 points a game, right? 24
Wow.
points a game. Guess what Dallas is
Wow.
averaging per game? Dallas is averaging
Wow.
32.5 points a game. That's
Jesus
awesome,
Christ. That's how
right?
you win.
That's
Yep.
awesome,
Yep.
right? San
Hmm.
Francisco 49ers are putting up, I think, 29 or 28 points a game, right? Like that's
Yep.
awesome. It's consistent, good touchdowns plus a week, right? Deal with it,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And at the same time, and we're going to get into this with Dallas, but Dallas is only allowing on less than 16 points a game. It leads the league, right? So, I mean,
Wow.
yeah, that's offense and defense. That's a championship looking team, certainly the way they are right
Yes.
now. KC is not
And
that, and their frustration showed.
and if you really look at it, you go deep in the stats, man. You have a situation, bro, where the Broncos low key are playing not only better defense but also better quarterback play. I don't know
Yeah.
what you. I've been seeing a lot of good things from Russell. For he's called. I watched this show by this guy called Coach Jason Brown. He calls him Russell Weirdo. Well, Russell Weirdo is playing really good football right now, playing a little bit better than Mahomes. But then we got to talk about somebody who's not playing great football, and we're gonna talk about your guys, the Steelers, man. Big Ben went off on his podcast, which is obviously a clickbait type of situation, where he's saying the Steelers have lost the Steeler way. And this goes back to my podcast I did last weekend, where I said, I'm in a mode right now where I'm thinking, man, Tomlin, I think Tomlin just has to leave the Steelers, or something has to change dramatically, because the Steelers they're not looking like the Steelers of old. And Ben Roethlisberger, he's kind of a piece of shit for doing that, talking down on his coach. Unc, you're the Steelers guy in this podcast, bro. How do you feel about that as a diehard fan, man? And unfortunately, they lost to the Colts yesterday, man. How you feel, bro? Talk to the peoples, man.
Well, I've told
Hmm.
you before, man. I've told you before. I've been a fan of the Steelers for over 45 years.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
right, basically since the cradle, right? So
Hmm.
they're my team. So I've lived through a lot of these troughs before in the past, man. Nothing's promised any year, and I
Yes,
think
sir.
Tomlin's resume is as solid as any other Pittsburgh coach that has been given that type of tenure. So no,
Hmm.
I don't think there's a problem with Tomlin. I think Tomlin needs to get a better offensive coordinator for sure,
Yeah.
and I think sometimes he's a little bit too loyal with his talent, right? But we've seen how that
Mm.
has paid dividends in the past, right?
Yeah,
So
man.
it
Yeah.
can't be the right thing to do one year and the wrong thing to do another year. I mean, these are
Good
issues
point.
of character, right? Which is the Steeler way, Ben,
Mm.
character, right? So yeah,
That guy has questionable character himself.
I got a big issue with Big Ben. And this is exactly what I was alluding to before when I said there's certain types of players,
Yeah.
superstar players, do not make good coaches. And you wonder
Yeah.
why. 'Cause remember, I told you there were hints going around that, maybe Ben would make a good OC, right? Or maybe
Oh,
even
I didn't know that. There were rumors about him being OC. I didn't
yeah,
know. Huh. Mm.
or maybe in desperation bringing him back, right? To
Mm.
the field, right? But no,
Yeah.
the logical thing for Ben to be would be to work as a line coach, quarterbacks coach, on his way up to OC within the Steelers
Yes.
system, because
Yes.
theoretically he understands the Steeler way and all that type of thing. But he just showed you why he hasn't been called, because they know what they know, right? Try to
Oh,
imagine he's an offensive coordinator or a head coach or something, and things aren't going the way he likes or whatever, and all of a sudden he starts shit talking the team as a coach in social media or
wow.
something like that. That is not the Steeler way. Because let me tell you, right?
Yes, sir.
He's got Art Rooney the second's phone number. He's got Tomlin on speed dial. Like they
Yes,
talk, I'm
sir.
sure, right? So
No, they do.
if he's got issues with the Steeler culture that's going sideways in his opinion, he should have those conversations with those people in those channels and not out in the public square, because that's the Steeler
Yes.
way, right? Because they have always,
Mm.
the Steelers are a fraternity. They have always encouraged keeping old coaches and players and whatnot in the loop, to have
Mm.
them contribute to future teams and all that type of stuff. They brought Mean Joe Green back as a coach at one point. Like they really do plumb the depths of their former staff, because they figure those guys know better than anybody the Steeler way and the Steeler culture, and therefore can help inculcate that culture in new players. Ben isn't doing that. He's out in the public square
Mm.
talking shit, talking things that he could easily and be welcome to say within closed channels. He didn't do that, and that's
Mm.
why he's not a coach right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So
Fire
fuck,
rant.
fuck Ben too. God love him.
Oh, Unk football came with the smoke today. I love it. I
Both
love that dish.
both him and Cam Newton can go pound sand.
Let's go, man. And you know what? You know what? Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. That is disloyal. He has their phone numbers, man. He can literally give them a call, and maybe he has the latitude to go on a crazy rant and even chew out Tomlin if he wants to, because he has
Mm-hmm.
that much leverage and power. But when you put it in the public sphere, dog,
Yeah,
That's where it gets ugly. You're pulling what a AB does.
yeah,
AB
that's
is
right.
on Twitter right now talking shit about Mike Tomlin, talking ish about the receivers.
Right.
And I'll say this, rightfully so about the receivers, because they're not pushing Pickens, Dante Johnson. They don't look like they're engaged in the game. Like I'm sad to see this because I do like the Steelers. Even though we're rivals, I'm a Ravens fan. I got love for the Steelers. I like
Let,
seeing them play great. I
let
just
me
don't
tell
like
you
how they're looking right now,
what.
man.
Let me tell you what a fan thinks of the Steelers right now. Speaking as a
Talk to me.
fan, right? I celebrate what the defense has managed to do this year. I celebrate the likes of TJ Watt. I recognize that it's a down year and that we have a new quarterback. I recognize that we have a coach who's 15 years into his tenure. I
Mhm.
recognize that we're in a bit of a trough, right?
Mm.
I celebrate the things that are worthy of celebrating, like the fact that we are still talking about them in the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make the
True.
playoffs. I have maintained from week one of this year that if we manage to get to 9-8 and preserve Tomlin's 500 record over 15 years of playing 500 ball or better, right?
Wow.
Like, to me, that would have been a successful season. And I said so in week one of this
You did.
podcast this year, right?
You
And
did.
I stick to that. I've never got too high. I've never got too low. I've celebrated the victories when they've came. I've shaken my head saying, well, better luck next year, with some obvious deficiencies that we have. That is a fan. I'm not abandoning my team. I'm recognizing their strengths and celebrating them when they occur,
Yeah.
but I'm trashing them. The last thing I'm going to do is trash that team. The worst word I'm going to use to describe my Steelers is disappointing.
Yes, and you know what? Here's this thing. I'm gonna give you a comparison because we, as the Ravens, as a Ravens fan, I saw this happen a few years ago, where we had a huge slump and the Bengals were running the division. And Bengals and Steelers actually were running that division. It was one of the Killer Bees era, where
Mm,
Ben, AB and Le'Veon Bell were killing it. Chris Boswell was doing really good as a kicker
good
too.
time.
It
Good
was a
time.
great era for Steelers, but Ravens
Good
ball was
time.
looking bad, bro. It was looking really, really bad. And at that point, it was when Joe Flacco was playing some of his worst football, and there were rumors that John Harbaugh was going to get fired. And guess what happened? Ozzie Newsome drafted a guy in the late first round called Lamar Jackson. And
Yep.
then our
Exactly.
franchise changed with
Okay.
one guy changed our franchise and has
Right.
us as the number one seed in the AFC right now with that
And Ozzy's
crazy winner. So there's a
Ozzy
chance that Ozzy
Ozzy's
made a
from
good.
the old school. Ozzy goes
Yes,
all the
sir.
way back to Cleveland, which
Yes,
shows
sir.
you he is the prime example. And they borrowed that type of loyalty from the Steelers because they saw the dividends they
100%.
paid off. Ozzy Newsome has gone from rookie wide receiver to what is he now? Vice president.
Oh yeah,
He's
yeah. No, he's now a consultant. There's Eric DeCosta, who's now the GM, but he was the GM for 25 plus years with the
right?
Ravens, like such
That
a long
type
time.
of continuity,
Yeah,
like it really matters. And the
100%.
Steelers employ it, and they've got the hardware to show you it, what it
Mm,
produces, right? Guys like Ozzie Newsome, like you don't just have a fit and get rid of the guy because he had a bad season, because he's going to get you a guy like Lamar eventually because he's quality. And the same thing goes with
yeah.
Tomlin. I'm sorry, I'll defend that guy to the end.
I feel you, man, and I'm telling you right now, I look at it like this: the Steelers are a quarterback away or a big jump in Kenny Pickett's career to
Yeah.
actually be big time contenders. And every team has this where they go through a slump, where finding that quarterback or that guy who's going to change the franchise is one pick away. And it goes back to what I'm talking about: the Ravens with an overtime thriller.
What
How
a
did you
great game.
feel about that game
Oh,
with the you know what I
okay.
mean? Yes. How did you feel about that game when you watched them? I think that was game of the week for me, man. That was great.
Yeah, well, I think we
Against
said
the
out
Rams.
front, between ourselves, because I didn't do the podcast last week, but we were saying that
Yeah.
was going to be the game of the week. I mean, come on. And it was so wonderful if you're a Baltimore fan or just a supporter of the franchise in its quest for an AFC conference championship like myself.
Mm.
To see them go on the road to the West Coast
Wow.
And have that
Oh, they
come
were
from.
at M&T Bank Stadium. Sorry to correct you. They were
Pardon,
at the
sorry,
Ravens Stadium.
they were in Baltimore. My bad,
They were
my
in
bad.
Baltimore,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
so okay, so defend the flag at home, whatever you want to call it. That was just
Yes,
magical,
sir.
and it came from an unexpected source, right? That rookie
Yes.
was his name Wallace or Thailand
Ty-
Wallace.
Tylan Wallace. Yeah, Tylan Wallace, rookie receiver. Hmm.
Yeah, it was so funny. Like you texted me, it's like we didn't see that coming. And it's like, yeah, I said neither did he. I guarantee you, right? That was just so great. But it just goes to show you again the discipline that Baltimore has exercised throughout the year and all aspects of the team, right? So special teams came in and won this week, right? Yeah, and Lamar is doing as we said he would, and that was air the ball out. Remember we were talking about a
Hmm.
Lamar game coming, it's coming, it's coming. Well, we got it, man.
Oh
That was
yeah.
great.
Oh
That
yeah.
was great. That was excellent. And Stafford and the Rams are playing well right now. You can't. Yeah, you can't say that that wasn't a quality win for Baltimore. It wasn't a sloppy game at all, man. That was just two teams really
No.
hammering it out. Because it wasn't like their defenses weren't doing their jobs. They were. There were some big hits,
Hmm.
all kinds of good plays. But those offenses were both firing on all cylinders. Well, not all cylinders. 9 out of 10
No.
cylinders. The Baltimore running game is mysterious right now. It's definitely
Yes.
very frustrating from a fantasy level. I actually dropped my Baltimore backfield, which I've been rocking with the first half of the season,
Yes,
right?
you
And
were.
but
Yes, you were.
my best to
Hmm.
find a consistent RB2 behind Christian McCaffrey. But yeah,
Hmm.
the Baltimore backfield is just a mess for fantasy purposes, but it's also not producing a lot in real football terms either. I don't believe
Yeah.
they're touchdowns. Keaton Mitchell is doing a lot of work between the 20s, but Gus
Hmm.
Edwards is not getting a lot of work down in the red zone. Lamar's passing or running himself, and that's the other thing, right? Lamar got 70 yards of running.
Yeah.
Lamar's their best
Yeah.
back. It's just that's all there is to it.
Well, you know
Lamar,
what's happening now that Lamar is since he's improved his passing and he's also more trusting his receivers, they're
yeah,
slowly becoming one dimensional, which is I was a little worried as a Ravens fan because we're gonna
yeah.
need Keaton Mitchell and Gus in the playoffs. We need them in the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you do, right? So hopefully maybe they're resting him a little bit and they're going to revive the running game. But yeah, they need more balance in Baltimore right now if they're going to pull this off. And I want to see them do it because there's nothing I love to
Yes.
see more than that purple and black just like rumbling. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, yeah,
And the
because it
last game
reminds,
of the
because it
season is gonna
reminds me,
be Steelers and Ravens. Yep.
me of the Steelers when they're playing their best.
Yeah.
But let's face it, there is an AFC North template for victory. Let's be real.
And you know what? Obviously, the Ravens got that from Steelers because the Steelers had that
Yeah,
pedigree. They still do. They are run first and pass when necessary. Great defense, gritty
and look at
team, and
Cleveland.
that's a formula that's worked
Look,
forever. You
but
know what I
if
mean?
you're going to win the AFC North, that's how you have to play. Look at how Cleveland plays.
Absolutely.
I mean, they
Cleveland
designed
plays
their
exactly
team to
like that.
play like that because they know that they not only have the Steelers to deal with, but they have everybody else in the division that plays like that as well because they all know they have to do it. If you want to beat the king, the Steelers,
Mm,
historically speaking, you want to
yeah,
beat the king, you got to play like the king, right? And
you gotta
look
do
at
that.
those Cincinnati teams that have done well. They've always had great quarterback play. That's for damn sure. That's sort of the one outlier. But they've always
Yeah, they have.
yeah, but they've always had solid running backs. See, Joe Mixon, right? There's always
Mm.
if you always look closely at Cleveland, whether it's Icky Woods or whomever, there's always anytime they've had great success, they've also had great running backs.
Wow, that leads me to talk about my topic, man, about the naughty and nice. I look like an elf, straight up. I look like a pimped out elf. It is what it is. So I'm here. I'm looking at Santa Unk. You know what I mean? Unk. You went up to the North Pole. You looked at the naughty and nice list of fantasy football, and what did you see up in that North Pole with that naughty and nice fantasy football list? Which players have been naughty or nice this season? Which players have been, put on your nice list, on your naughty list? How do you feel about it, Unc?
Well, I'm glad to see when I was up there. I was glad to see that my unbroken naughty list streak is still alive. My damn self. But players that have been
That's right.
naughty and players that have been nice, right? I mean,
Mhm.
It's been an up and down season. I guess what you're looking for are players that have been disappointing. For example, Zach Wilson's on the
Basically.
list, right? Because he was doing okay for a while. Uh,
Yeah.
Tommy Cutlets DeVito is like definitely on your nice list right now.
Gutless,
That guy's
gutless.
Tommy Cutlets is such a great story for the NFL. I'm so
I
happy
love
for
it
that
too.
dude, for that franchise, and for the NFL to have that feel good story. I think that's wonderful. I wish him all the success.
Me too.
So yeah, yeah. On the nice list too is Matt Stafford. Man, there's a guy having a late season revival. Right, right.
Oh yes.
Let's
Oh
December
yes.
football. Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. The Tommy Cutlet story
I
is
had to
so
pull
great.
it up. I had to pull it up. It's hilarious. I love talking
Did
about
you
it, man.
find the
Tommy DeVito.
picture? Did you
Oh, the
find the
picture.
picture of his dad?
Hey, let me see it. Let me see it. Yeah.
Like his
Which
plumbing
one?
company for Halloween. A couple of the guys dressed up as Mario and Luigi, like the Italian plumbers. Like it's just
Oh shit.
no, yeah, those guys, they cosplayed on. So can you imagine, right? These guys pull up to your house on Halloween. Like it's just a good story. That's a great sense of humor, and yeah, like some of the people are plumbing the internet to find some of the things the guy's been doing on YouTube with his friends, seeing as how he's like
Mm.
12 miles from the stadium, at home with his family. I mean, his life's been basically uninterrupted since Don Bosco Prep, which, by the way, is one of the top football factories in high school all over the
Oh, I
U.S.
didn't know that.
Yeah, and
Okay.
there's actually been a traditional hotbed of good players. Yeah, and
Hmm.
so yeah, yeah, his whole story is great. I
That's
saw
awesome.
this one TikTok bit where he's sitting down with one of his friends from the neighborhood, and the
Mm.
accents are just so wonderful. I mean, they're just playing it up. They were like ranking their top 5 Italian food dishes and stuff, and
Yes.
they just remind you. Just like they seriously, like I felt like I'm watching Everyone Loves Raymond, like watching those
Yes.
talk. It looked like could have been a bit from Everyone Loves Raymond. Everybody Loves
This
Raymond.
video you're talking
This
about,
one
right?
right
This
there,
one.
yeah. There's Tommy Cutlets on the left, right? Dressed like your
Yes.
classic Giants fan. the
I
guy
love
next
it.
the guy next to him looks like he should be leading like some indie rock band, and then he opens his mouth and he sounds like every Goomba
Full
he's
on
on
Italian.
the
Yeah, every
brand.
Sopranos episode.
Oh my god! But it's so natural. Like it's 100% natural. Like the guy's just
I
talking.
agree.
Like at one point, he's at number 3 or number 4 in the ranks. Right? He looks at them.
Mm.
He's like, "Where are you getting these entrees from, man?" Like like, there's like, and it was just the way he said it. It was just so natural. Like he just you didn't understand. And then so he looks at them when they're getting up to, I think it was the number 1 bit, and he looks
Yeah.
over at Tom. He's like, well, they have to have a real good banger for number 1, so let's hold out a bit, right? Like, and sure enough, they come in, it was like veal cutlets, chicken veal cutlets, whatever. They're like, see, yeah, yeah, that's it was just
I like it. I
so
like
good.
it. I
It's
fuck with it.
so good, and I'm really happy for. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. Yep, yep. I'm gonna mute it right quick. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's bringing
Great.
the fan out of us as football fans to see the Giants. Well, this is the crazy part. The Giants might even make the playoffs. Like, what the
Yeah,
fuck? Who
yeah,
would
yeah.
have thought?
They're one
Exactly.
victory away from being in the conversation because there's a huge logjam in the NFC above with I think it's 6 and 7 teams. Well, they're 5 and 8.
Yeah, there's a
They're 5 and 8, right?
yeah,
So a couple
they're
losses
not.
by those guys, a couple more wins by them. Now they're going into New Orleans, so we're gonna have to see whether the New Jersey North travels well to the Big Easy. New
Mhm.
Orleans is a tough team. They're going to be out of the usual environment and all that type of stuff, but it's really hard to argue with. There's just something different now with the Giants that they did not have with Danny Dimes, right? They didn't have with Daniel Jones, and they most certainly didn't have with Tyrod Taylor. Um,
Yeah.
and a couple of the podcasters who were discussing, the homers, right? But
Mhm.
there's one guy was, giving some really honest analysis, and he was
Yeah.
just saying, like, look, there's a different vibe
Mhm.
on the Giants right now, and it's all him. He's the guy, right? Like who gave him that nickname, Cutlets and whatnot? That was like
Yeah.
that was the running back there. What's his name? Saquon Barkley.
Saquon
He
Barkley
gave
gave him that
him,
nickname. I didn't know
he
that.
gave him
So
a handle. So when your team is
Wow.
around you, giving you nicknames, doing this stuff, like that's like the whole team's doing that stuff, right? These are
Yeah.
the type of things that unite a team. So
Locker
fuck
room
it.
guys. Locker
Yeah,
room guys. That's
yeah.
huge. And you know what? That's somebody you gotta
So
put a
don't
person
count
like
them
that
out.
on the nice list. Don't count
Don't
them
count them
out.
out.
Any
Uh,
fantasy football naughty list, you kind of alluded to Gus Edwards and Keaton Michael.
mhm.
They're on your naughty list, it seems like. You know what I mean? Well,
Yeah,
who else is on the naughty
Calvin
list and
Ridley.
not
Calvin
performing?
Ridley's
Oh,
on my
Kevin.
naughty list.
Yeah.
Like he
Mm.
regularly was projected fantasy points per game, the low 11s and all that stuff, like all the other tier one wide receivers at the beginning of the year.
Mm.
This
Mm.
week, he was like my fourth ranked wide receiver after like
Wow.
Pittman, yeah, after Pittman, after even Gus Metcalf or no, what's his name, Metcalf there out in Seattle.
Seattle.
Yeah, who's had a bit of an
DK
off
Metcalf.
year. Um,
Yeah.
I've elevated Rashi Rice into my top three wide receivers above him now, right? Rashi Rice
Wow.
projected to 11 plus points this week, for example, right? And
Yeah.
so Calvin Ridley came in. They projected him to actually under 10 points, 9.89 points. They're now projecting him at
Wow.
nine. They're now projecting him at 9.5 points. I rarely see a fantasy player lose like almost half a point in projected value if they haven't been
Yeah.
in just sort of in because I'm not sure how they run that metric, but obviously there's a little sort of over under action in there somewhere that they're culling that they're using to make these projections. Like like for example, all the people prop betting, like how many points do you think you'll get? I don't know whether they're tied into that, but the fact that it's a fluid number going up and down in their projections for points, and his like I said, it's like the only player I've seen all season drop like 4/10 of a point in projected value over like a week because
Wow.
people just aren't expecting that much from him. And this is Calvin Ridley. Now, I guess maybe we should have seen that coming, that he'd be a bit rusty this year. Maybe our expectations were a bit high that he would be that kind of Justin Jefferson wide receiver one type of guy for Trevor Lawrence, which we all desperately want to see. Let's be honest. We want to see.
Oh, of course. You want to see the best players play with the best players. We need
Yeah,
that.
right? Like that looked like a really appealing combo, right? And but it's
Mhm.
not happening. So yeah, Calvin Ridley's on my naughty list for sure.
I'll say this. I'm just gonna name two players who are one on a nice list, one on a naughty list. Josh Allen on that nice list, man. If you have him in fantasy, he's giving you like 30 points every single damn week. He's playing great, amazing football. And if you have him on your list, he's gonna win you some playoff games going into the playoffs.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
this is the thing that
yeah,
we keep saying why Buffalo it's so maddening to see them at
crazy.
7-6, 6-6, all this type of stuff because Josh Allen is the most productive quarterback in fantasy,
Yeah,
which means that in real football he's also producing on the field, and we
yeah,
talked about that at length last week or the week
we
before,
did.
saying
We did.
like that the points for, their points against, all of this belies their record. They should be, I'd say, a good 2 games better than they are, but they're not. So I can't figure it out. But as far as just fantasy goes, Josh Allen's a great quarterback to have this year.
I'm telling you. And on my naughty list is Zach Moss. I made the dumb decision of starting him this week. What happened to this dude, man? He
He
was
just
killing
went
it
up.
to start the season.
He
Zach
just went up.
Moss.
And remember the other thing I told you? Like some bell
Yeah.
cows get stronger in December, but some also fade, right? Like let's face it, Zach Moss is not 6'4", 230, right? I think the
No.
guy's like 5'11" and 215 or something like that. Like the guy
Something like that.
he would put into a workload that his body is just not ready for. So that's
It's
what's going
just
on with Zach.
saying
Yeah.
hell nah. And you know what? We're having fun on the pod, man. We're gonna go more than an hour. F it. We're gonna have some
It
fun
looks
today.
like it,
Y'all
yeah.
deserve y'all deserve more of Unk football, and I'm gonna make y'all enjoy it for more than
Okay.
an hour.
So
We're
let me give
doing
you
it. Let's talk about the lines and spreads, brother.
Okay, well, very quickly, let me give you some quick names though in fantasy to keep your eyes out for players that are
Of
sort
course.
of in play, in fluid. I'll do it very quickly. Number one,
Yeah.
for people who want to, get their team ready for the playoffs and win, right? You need a
Yes.
good defensive special teams, a team that's going to produce points, right? Not just
Mhm.
like get their 10 points posted and then down to zero or negative throughout the course of the game. You want them to build on that. And the Chicago defense and special teams right now is lights
Oh,
out. The only team as good as them right now is San Francisco's D. Yeah, they're getting turnovers, all that type of stuff. So, and they're available
Oh,
in a lot of leagues, man. Yeah, the team they're playing this weekend, I forget what it is, but I forget who they're playing, whatever. But I think it's Cleveland, right? Cleveland actually gives up a lot of points to defense and special teams, seventh most in
yeah,
the
they're
league.
playing Cleveland. They're playing Cleveland,
Yeah.
so you could even start them this morning if you want. Yep,
Okay,
the
two
defense.
two two names that are gone for this week, but showed you that they can produce points. If you're looking for
Mhm.
some RB2 help or even RB1 help, Zamir White, right? He's taken over the backfield with Josh Jacobs injured
For
in
the
Vegas.
Raiders. Yeah, yeah.
Chase Brown is supplementing Joe Mixon quite competently. He got a touchdown last week on just a swing play off to the side. He converted for almost
Mhm.
60 yards. Yeah, so Chase Brown is very quick, very fast.
Nice.
If anything happens to Joe Mixon, that's your handcuff, and he's oh Jesus, he'll win somebody a championship. Ben Waller at
Mhm.
tight end is coming back this weekend for the Giants. He's watching that success, and
Mhm.
he really wants to get back in there. He's been out for about 6 weeks. Ben Waller, if you need help at tight end, exactly. He wants a piece of those cutlets, right? So that's good. That's good that he has that type of enthusiasm. He wants to play. He wants to get in there. That's a sign of a guy who's going to produce, right? So, and
Nice.
of course, a guy like Cutlets, right? What does he need over the middle? He needs some good tight end help. The
Yeah.
tight end position in general this year is surprising. Kelts is not your far and away number one. The
Mhm.
pyramid has got very flat among the top 10. There are at least 5 tight ends that you could have right now this year between Ingram, Hawkinson, Laporta, surprisingly in Detroit.
Laporta from Detroit. Yeah, he's playing. He's balling out.
Those guys. So it's Laporta, Hawkinson, Kelt, and Kittle range between 170.
Mm.
Those are the only, and plus Ingram now in Jacksonville. The only 5 guys at tight end that are getting you double-digit points on average every week. But it used to be
Wow.
it was only Celts that you could rely on for that. So tight end has opened up a fair bit. So take a look on who's on your waiver wire. Right, look for somebody who can give you positive points there. But also Aaron Jones is going to take over the backfield most likely
Oh,
this
Aaron
weekend.
Jones is back. Oh,
He's
nice.
back. At the same time,
Nice.
AJ Dillon has a broken thumb. Right, so
Oh, okay.
Aaron Jones is going to be looked to. Noah Brown is another guy coming off the. He's had a questionable tag, all that type of stuff. But Tank Dell's out, and that
Yeah.
the other guy in Houston, Nico Collins, is out. So Noah Brown, even though he doesn't have C.J. Stroud throwing the ball, unfortunately, is going to be your wide receiver one in a high offensive output team. Lawrence and Ridley again, like I don't know what's going to happen this weekend. I really don't know
Yeah.
what's going to happen, but there's going to be a ton of targets for Ridley. Ridley got 13. Okay, and his other wide receiver also got 14 targets. So they're
Oh,
flinging the
wow.
ball all the damn plays. So
Okay.
there's a good likelihood that those 2 guys actually produce, but they also might come up real short too. So the Baltimore backfield again, like don't trust it. Don't trust it. Don't trust your playoffs to them.
Yeah.
Antonio Gibson though has been elevated to the number one running back with what's his name there?
Oh, the Commanders? Is it the Commanders with
The Commander.
Brian Robinson? Is it
I,
Brian Robinson? I think so.
yeah, Brian Robinson. That's it.
No.
Is out this weekend. It's going to be a high scoring matchup, and also Gibson
Mm.
catches the ball. So chances are he's going to have a high volume. They're actually projecting him to over 12 points this week. So we'll see if that happens. But look, that is a serious change in the Washington backfield and what is going to be a high output game, 50 points a game. And
Mm.
McKinnon and CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire in
Oh,
Kansas
yeah.
City.
Yep.
Right, these
Kansas
are now
City.
Pacheco's still out, so these 2 guys are now
Oh,
going to split the backfield. McKinnon usually gets the touchdowns, but 5 yards in, it's usually Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Right, so we'll
mm.
see. So those are some guys to watch out. Your big scoring games are San Francisco, Arizona, Washington at LA
Mm.
Rams, Dallas at Buffalo, Philly
Yeah.
at Seattle, and Baltimore and Jacksonville. They're only calling for 41 points in that game, but I don't buy it. I think it's going to be a high scoring game like last weekend. But all those other games, those other 4 games I mentioned, are all predicted to be 48 points to 50 and a half points per game. Right, they're significantly higher.
Mm.
This week's slate of games has
Gonna be fun.
an alarming amount of games that are predicted to be under 35 points, under 40 points.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Wow.
dude. A lot of games are
No.
for low over unders. So if you've got players in the San Francisco, Arizona, Washington, LA, Dallas, Buffalo, Philly, Seattle, or Baltimore, Jacksonville, Go through your rosters, figure out which players you have that are in those games, and get them out there because you're probably going to see a lot of points, more so than some of these other games. So look out for that.
Super,
All right, so that's
super
fantasy,
cool.
buddy. So that's fantasy, buddy. What
Yeah, look,
point spreads?
yeah, I love it, man. And now let's talk about the point spread, man. Now, I love the way you analyze that stuff, man. This, you know what? I'm giving you your flowers, bro. You kill it with the fantasy advice, and you also kill it with the odds and lines and spreads, brother. How do you looking at it? Give me some games that I can, blow my money on, or maybe get some money on. I mean, or maybe our guys can get some money on. How's it looking with week 15, like you just said, bro?
Well, like again, right? I try to identify spreads that seem inconsistent or off, and the biggest one for me this week that way is the Dallas Buffalo game. Buffalo is favored by 2 over Dallas at home. And I think what's going on here is that, of course, Dallas has been lights out at home, right? They have been a bit of a different team on the road than they have been at home. But they're getting
Right,
over that, right? They showed you that when they went to Philly and smacked Philly, that they're
right.
getting over that. So I've got to believe that they're probably going to be better than that. And also, too, I'm pretty sure in a lot of people's minds, right? They think Buffalo, December, they think it's going to be a shit snowstorm or whatever. It's not. The weather up here is
Projected to rain, right? Is
well,
or at
yeah,
least be
be some
okay.
raining. There might be some
Mm.
rain, but you're talking about 50-degree temperatures, and it's not going to be overly blustery or anything like that, right? So it's nothing that extraordinary for Dallas to contend with mentally or whatever. So I think there might be a bit of a bias built in there. Now, again,
Yeah.
I've said Buffalo has an excellent points for and points against. But
Yes.
not like Dallas, man. When I do that points for, points against analysis, like I do, when I sort of figure out what I think the natural point spread should be, I think
Mhm.
Dallas should be favored by a good 6 points, even with the home field advantage for Buffalo. I really
Yes.
do. I really do. I think they're a good 6 points better than Buffalo, and yet they've Buffalo's favored by 2. So yeah, I would jump all over the Dallas one, and also their over under is 50 points. Take the fucking over. I think that game's
Over
that
Dallas, always
game
take the
is,
over. Yep.
it wouldn't surprise me if that game produced 70 points.
Respect, respect, brother. What other games do you think that would be good to spend some money on? Because I think that Dallas game might be game of the week for me, man. I think it's gonna be
Yeah,
a
I
shootout point,
I
basically.
think it's
You know what I
between
mean?
Baltimore and Jacksonville. Just because when
Yeah.
those two guys get together, man, like that's I told you about Jacksonville. My theory about Jacksonville being sort of like the honorary AFC North team, and so I think just for
Oh,
enter-
yeah, that
I
is.
think
Yeah, you've talked about that a lot, actually.
I,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think I think for just pure entertainment value, I think the Jacksonville Baltimore game is just gonna be sick. But
Mm.
I actually have Jackson because the point spread at 3.5. Vegas Insider has it at
Yeah.
3.5, I think. So
Yep.
I think
Three and a
I
half.
think that's too much. I think that Baltimore probably wins
Oh.
that game, but by 2 or 3 points. So
Oh, okay. Closer.
Jacksonville,
Close again.
like, and of course take the over 41 points. But I think that's an opportunity actually for bettors. That 3.5. I think Jacksonville makes this a close game. The last time they got together, I think Baltimore won by 1 point or something like that in like a
That was
30
extremely close. Yep.
37-35 kind of like insane game, right? So
Mhm.
now the other one that intrigues me too is Miami's +8 against the Jets. So
Oh,
that's a divisional matchup, and Miami, of
oh,
course, can score, but they
yes,
have a
sir.
hard time scoring without Tyreek Hill. We talked about Tyreek Hill being a most valuable player. We're seeing how valuable he is right now because that team is not producing like when he's on the field. He may be on the field as a decoy, but I don't believe he's
Yes.
going to be very productive this weekend. And we saw what happens when he's not productive last week. Right. So
Oh,
yeah. So 8 points, 8.5 points, I think is too much.
they're
Also, too,
giving them 8.5. That's a lot. I'm like,
and
wow.
and they're only looking for 36.5 points as your over under with a Miami game. Like wow. So
I'm
you're
saying
either
that makes no. That's a weird spread, bro. That's
right.
like that. That's a weird
And
betting line to have under 36.5, and they have the Miami taking it by a touchdown
it's a
and basically
divisional
choking them.
game, right? But also,
Mm.
also one more thing.
What's
There's a
up?
lot of extreme. There's a lot of heavy weather in Florida this weekend, right?
Okay.
Usually this time of the year, the weather clears up nicely in Florida, but they're getting some tropical stuff coming through this weekend. So it's blustery
Oh,
and wet and rainy. But by
okay.
game time in Miami, it should be clear to play.
Okay.
Just a good thing for Green Bay. They're not playing in Tampa Bay in the Bay of Pigs.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're getting sort of hit the hardest. Jacksonville is also experiencing some weather, and I think Baltimore's in Jacksonville, right?
Yeah, Baltimore's in Jacksonville tonight
But
at
it's
8 p.m.
Sunday night.
Sunday Night Football.
It's Sunday night,
Mm.
so it'll be cleared up by then. But these fields, I believe, are going to be wet unless
Very well.
unless their field management is outstanding. But the weather in Miami should clear up for the afternoon game, but it's going to be raining all morning in my.
No.
I think it might be a sloppy game, sloppier game than
Yeah.
you're seeing in Miami, Fort
Oh,
Lauderdale. Washington at LA Rams. Another
let's
game
talk
with
about it.
a 50 plus expected over under, right?
Mm.
Washington's favored by 6.5, and I think that's an easy cover for them. Or not, pardon me, not Washington. LA Rams
Rams.
are
Yeah.
favored by 6.5, and I think that's an easy cover for them. I think it's going to be a lot of points, man.
Yeah.
But
It's gonna be a big one.
Washington gets all their yards between the 20s. They seem to have a hard time getting into the end zone for points these days,
They
right?
have a tough time in the red zone. They have a very tough time in the
LA's
red zone.
LA's defense is heating up. Like they're gonna expect a few interceptions and whatnot, and probably pick sixes, and yeah, it's gonna be a sloppy game. But I think LA easily covers that 6.5 points. Like that to me, that seems like a lock.
Nice, nice.
Another one, very much like that Miami Jets game.
Yeah.
KC is going to the resurgent New England New England
Patriots. Yeah.
again. And they're favored by 8.5 points, and I don't see it.
I don't see it either, bro.
See that?
I
So I'd put
don't
my
see it
money
either.
on New England to cover 8.5 points, and
Yes, sir.
probably take the under on 37.
Oh,
I
take the
think, man.
under.
I
Okay.
think, yeah.
Okay.
Um,
We
and
got an
that's
evil
it.
genius. Explain it. Explain it, Unc. Let me know why.
And that's it. That's what I have as my main games. I think I also have Cleveland to cover their 3 points against Chicago, but I don't really feel very confident about that. It'll probably be the
Yeah.
under.
That's gonna be a pick 'em, the Cleveland versus Chicago game, because surprisingly Chicago's playing pretty well. Um,
Cleveland's been has been excellent at home though. They've been a different team. Like all those 38-31 games that you see with Cleveland have been on the road, I believe.
oh
The
wow.
other
Okay.
stats, pardon me, the other stats I have for you too.
Talk to me.
Dallas is 9-4 against the spread, by the way, this season. But what are they
Oh,
on the road? Right, they're 2-2
no.
on the road, which is pretty respectable.
Oh, that's
Right.
pretty good,
So
actually. Huh. Yeah.
yeah, I really believe in that Dallas pick. Baltimore also four
Yeah,
and two
how's it
against
looking?
4-2 against the spread on the road, which was the deciding
Mm.
factor in their favor when I was deciding, that Baltimore Jacksonville pick. Even though I think Jacksonville will cover that, Baltimore, I wouldn't
Mhm.
surprise me for a second if Baltimore won by touchdown, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they are 4-2 against the spread on the road, 8-5 on the spread against the year. So they're actually better against the spread on the road than they are at home, right? They're four and
Oh,
three against
yeah?
home, yeah.
Some
So
road dog type energy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So Baltimore Jacksonville is very much a flip 'em game, but there is that
Yeah.
stack going in your favor if you look for that type of thing. But yeah, I think Dallas has a solid ATS record at home, unbeatable at home, but also on the road, right? The conventional wisdom is like play 500 on the road, cover 500 on the road, and like that's a good team, right? And so
Yeah.
yeah, Dallas fits that. So I get Dallas is really kind of my mortal lock of the week.
No, I like that. I like that. That kind of bleeds into our game of the week. What should we be watching for our games of the week? I suggested Cowboys versus Bills because I don't know what's going on. The Cowboys are putting up great games, and the Bills are putting up late time. Like it goes down to the wire with the Bills. You know what I mean? Like almost weekly. I don't know what's going on,
It's
but I
the
like that game, and I like the Ravens versus Jags. Well, what's your game of the week, or what do you think?
It's
Huh?
it's the narratives that make that game as intriguing as it is.
Yeah.
We're looking to see, can Dallas morph into championship form, because they'll need this victory to make believers out of people. Because let's be
Oh
real
yeah.
too, right? Like Buffalo's favored by 2 for a reason. This looks like a
They're favored by
classic
2.
trap. This looks like a classic trap game for Dallas. To underperform as per their historical resume. Right? Let's be real. Right? Let's be real. But for
Yeah.
me, just as being a biased East Coaster, AFC North kind of guy, including the honorary member, to me, the game of the week is Baltimore Jacksonville. Yeah, for entertainment value.
Yeah. Let's go.
And hell yeah, giddy up, right? That's my game of the week. So yeah, for
I
sure. And
did.
now we
Yeah.
wanted to do a little bit of a quick overtime, huh? We're gonna talk a little college ball.
Yeah, man. And you know what? We don't even have to be quick with the overtime, man. What do you think about college ball? How is it looking? I personally have an opinion that I think is, well, you kind of mentioned it pretty much. If FSU, Florida State, Seminoles, if they actually beat Georgia, they can claim a natty because they
Yep,
went undefeated. They can claim it. Really.
which is,
You know, the
which
college
is
football
amazing,
committee
right? Which
was
is
dirty
amazing.
for what they did. Yeah, they can
In
claim
the
it
modern
legally.
era, we were supposed to have solved this whole freaking thing with split championships and all that stuff, and we're right
Yeah.
back to where we were 30 years ago,
Square
debating
one.
debating about like how do we definitively have a champion, and we have this
Yeah,
playoff, but now we're back to the same controversies as before, as who gets into that playoff, right? And the obvious
yes,
answer is to
sir.
have like fucking 16 team playoff like any other normal league, right? Instead of four,
Yeah.
right? But they've been trying to, anyways, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole of
It's
ranking,
borderline
but,
getting
but
weird because even this senator for Florida, a senator, and yet Rick Scott is suing the college football committee. It's getting political, bro.
those guys can all
Getting
go. That's all they're doing is this, right? They jerk offs, a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, it's fucking
Yeah,
crazy. But
yeah, no.
what do you think, man?
Well, irony of ironies. Guess which team overrode the vote to expand the playoff to 8 teams this year? Guess which team?
Oh, I
FSU voted against that,
FSU. Oh shit! Oh my
and,
god!
and, and a veto on it, I guess, or whatever, right? Yeah.
Wow!
And so they voted against expansion to an 8 team. They're going to do it next year, but they voted against it this year. Now
Wow!
let's get into the weeds on this, right? The main
Okay.
reason that FSU got snubbed the way they did is because they lost their number one quarterback about midway through the season,
Yeah.
and they managed to show a lot of character, eked out a lot of close wins in the ACC. Right, the ACC is not
Mm.
considered to be like they're they're just not a powerful conference compared to, say, the Big 12 or the SEC, for example, or
No,
the
they're
Big
not.
or the Big 10. They just
No.
aren't. The teams and FSU has voted consistently throughout the years to be the top dog in a smaller pond rather than joining the
Mm.
SEC. Or for the longest time I thought FSU was an SEC team back in the 90s before I really dug into it, because I just assumed,
Yeah.
because they played they played teams like Florida and all that type of stuff every year. I just
Oh
always
yeah.
assumed,
Play
I just
they
always
played a lot
assumed
of SEC teams, so
they're,
I fully get it.
they're an ACC team. So their
Oh,
ACC championship, FSU's ACC championship, and their ACC record is all viewed through a little bit of a rose-colored glass,
yeah.
in that their conference is not considered to be as dominant as the SEC or the Big Ten, for example. So
Mm.
um, so we end up in this wonderful phenomenon, however.
Wow.
Kudos to the Orange Bowl for putting this all together. The Orange Bowl has Georgia, one loss
Yeah.
Georgia, and the two-time defending national champion Georgia Bulldogs teamed up against FSU in this
Mhm.
game. And FSU, like you said, is undefeated. And Georgia has
Yeah.
only one loss. They have only one loss, and that is to the college football playoff contender, Alabama. They only
Alabama.
lost to Alabama in the SEC championship. So, according to that formula, Bama goes to the CFP,
Yeah. Mhm.
college football playoff, rather than with Georgia. So Georgia is now available. One loss Georgia. So one loss
Yeah.
Georgia is going to go up against undefeated FSU, right? So, and we got this great little narrative, underdog narrative. But guess what?
What's up?
Georgia is favored by 14 freaking points, and the SEC is going to stomp the shit out of FSU. FSU is going to get a mud hole.
Oh,
FSU is going to
yeah,
get
I
a
know.
mud hole stomped in their ass by an angry,
They're gonna get
pissed
whooped.
Georgia who's out there to show people that they are still the champs and that they got left out of the playoff.
Mm.
They got left out of the playoff in favor of Texas or whomever, right? Rather
Yeah,
than be given the
Texas and Bama,
opportunity,
for real. Yeah,
to as a wild card to sort of defend their championship, right? They got 2 championships in a row. You're going to really
in a
deny
row.
repeat? Well, yeah, they
Mhm.
did. Right. So now they're 14-point favorites over FSU, and they are going to stomp a mud hole in their ass. There's just no doubt about it. And
Mm.
that leaves you with Alabama against Michigan in the Rose Bowl. Michigan's
Yeah,
13-0. Alabama is 12-1. And interestingly enough, the only team that Alabama lost to all year long was Texas,
Texas.
who's
Yeah.
also in that 14 playoff. And their only loss of the year was a 3-point loss to their eternal rivals in the Red River Shootout to the Oklahoma
It's
Sooners.
Oklahoma. Yeah, Oklahoma
Yeah,
Sooners, yeah.
right. And they're actually Texas at 12-1 is actually a 4-point favorite over undefeated
Oh.
Washington in the Sugar Bowl. So the bettors really have the say here, right? The bettors, the betting
Mm.
lines, totally belie this narrative, this underdog David and Goliath narrative of FSU, and the angriest hornet, Senator Rick Scott and Ron DeSantis, so yeah, all that kind of like go away. By the time anybody looks at your court case, the playoffs are over.
They're gonna be done.
Anyways, the bettors show you that FSU is the inferior team versus those other 5.
Mm.
There's no getting around it. And you notice,
Yeah.
right? Michigan's favored by 1 over Bama, and Texas is actually favored over Washington. So the 2 undefeated teams are barely
They're
favored. So
they're underdogs. Well, they're underdogs in this scenario. Yeah.
the
No.
SEC is still like the number 1 conference as far as
Yes.
bettors are concerned.
Oh
As far
yeah.
as bettors are concerned, both of those 12-1 teams belong way more than FSU does.
And you know what? I said this too. I thought about it. I didn't talk about it publicly or even really go that deep into college football. Like I've been watching all season. I've been checking out games here and there. But you're absolutely right. Once FSU lost Jordan Travis, once he went down, low key the season went down because he had such a huge impact on their wins. Now credit to FSU for winning without him. But if
Yeah, for
you
sure.
look
For doing
at
what
the
was necessary.
quality,
But
yeah, if you
they barely beat Louisville to win their championship. So I mean, give me
they
a break.
barely beat Louisville. Texas is a stronger program, stronger team. Alabama is a stronger team.
Just like
Ge-
happy.
man, you look at it, yeah. And then
Like
you know what? If I was a Georgia fan, I'd be pissed right now
I
because
would take,
Georgia is a very strong football team.
I would
You know what
take
I mean?
10. I would take a 4-loss SEC team over FSU.
Yes, I
Any
would too.
straight up in any straight up neutral field matchup. So FSU can go
Yes.
the pound sand too. In fact, nothing gives me more pleasure than to see FSU fans angst over all of this.
Oh
I
shit! Unc came
I
in
hope
hot this episode. So Cam Newton's getting it. Ben Roethlisberger's getting it, and now FSU's getting it. Oh shit! He got a
wide,
3-1.
wide right, wide left, go Canes.
I love it. I say this, man. I think the college football playoffs are gonna be very fun. I'm very excited to watch these ball games. We'll definitely cover it on more
They
episodes of Unc and
they
Few.
got
And
they got to get
SEC,
they got
go
to
ahead.
get to 16 teams in that playoff to have any serious
They
credibility. They
have
got the
to.
sooner they do that, the better. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, they have to because what's happening right now is that now with this controversy of FSU, you are actually kind of discouraging players, saying, "Hey, you can go undefeated and still not make it just
Right.
because you have teams that are naturally favored." You know what I mean? And yes, they should be favored because of the quality and the history, but you have to also look at this season. This season, the Washington Huskies, they shocked the world and they've been playing amazing
Great
football.
team. Great
You know what
team.
I mean? Great team. They beat Oregon handedly. Well, not handedly, but they beat Oregon twice, and Oregon is a great football team.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's right. That's
You
right.
look at
So,
Bama, amazing football team, but they lost. You
but
know what I
look,
mean? So these are things that are you have to keep in mind. it's discouraging for the kids out there who are playing ball to their hearts,
You
discouraging to the
have to
coaches,
get
and
you
discouraging to the sport. Actually, it kind of
have
stains the
to get
sport. You know.
you have to get to a level like the NCAA tournament. You have to
Yes.
have a place where
Yes.
a team like FSU can make its case over 2, 3 rounds, and run the
Yes.
table. Or some other team that gets hot comes in at 10-2, but they're hot as hell, and they just had bad luck early in the season, and
Yes.
then they run the table, like you see in the NCAA men's basketball tournament, right? The sooner they get they
Mm.
might, who knows? And they may have to pair off a game here or there, whatever, on league schedules to accommodate it all, or just accept the fact that a 16 game plus schedule is, if you're going to be champ, that's how it goes. The same way like an NCAA basketball or NCAA men's basketball team will end up playing like almost 40 games if they go all the way to the championship, right? Like you just have to get
Yeah.
over the crap. But you have to have at least a 16 team NCAA men's football tournament if we're ever going to
Yes.
get controversies,
I
right?
fully agree with that because when you watch the NCAA basketball tournament, it's clear, concise, straight to the point. You have all this. They even expanded at some point, but now they're at 64 teams get in the tournament,
68.
and then
68. It,
68. Oh shit, I didn't even
it,
know.
yeah,
But
it's really
yes,
awkward. The play-in
yeah.
games are dumb, and the playoff games are dumb and stupid. But they had no choice because even at 64 teams, it's still controversy about who gets in and who
You
doesn't.
see, I prefer that. I prefer having more teams in the race, and you know what might happen? You might have to increase the games of college football, but college football is a money machine. I don't think these players would even be mad at it because of the all NIL money they're getting, of all the transfer portal shit that's going on,
Yeah.
which is
Oh,
controversial. But they I don't think these guys would mind playing a few extra games
they
to
all
to,
go
to,
to a
to increase their profile and increase the money, frankly, to their school and the whole sport. I think we have to get in the territory where we increase the games, increase the teams, and then see what happens. What do you
well.
think, Unc?
Well, you got to remember, NCAA Division II and Division III all have successful playoffs, and they're very exciting. You just get over it.
Yes. Mm,
Get over it. Just
get o-
have a structured playoff and all the magic that comes with it. Anyway, so yeah,
yeah.
that's my feeling.
I feel you. I feel you, man. This was a great stream. It's a great episode. We're gonna maybe I don't know. We're gonna figure out something for next week because we're getting closer and closer to Christmas. But happy holidays to everybody, man. Much love to everybody from Unc and Few. Slap a like on your way out, man. We
Please,
appreciate each and every one of y'all.
yeah,
Never forget, we can have one viewer, and we're happy to have you here, bro. We can have a million views, and we still happy to have you here. Unc, any last
well,
words for the peoples?
I'll tell you what, man. I'm down for the 23rd. If you want to get together next week, I'm more than
Oh
happy
yeah,
to do
yeah, yeah.
that.
I'm down too, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, man. All right. But other than that, man, just one love to the people. Thank you all very much for coming in. Please smash that like button. Get in the comments. Let us know how you feel, man. We love you all.
Yes, sir. This has been Unc and Few at season 2, episode 14, and we out, dog. Deuces. Yes, sir. Ah.